Nobody's. That's okay. I'll just hang out here until some of you are. And in the meantime, wait, let me make sure all this is set up. Live chat. I can see you. Oh, there's a couple of you there. So before I get into anything related to your questions or the class stuff, I went through and read everything from the discussion 6-7 thread, and it was kind of hard to read. It was good. It was good. I was happy about the stuff that you were saying, but I felt kind of bad, like I had set myself up for some sort of thread where you guys were just flattering me. And I got to read 190 something replies of you guys just saying nice things to me, which is great if it's true. And if you really are happy with the way the semester's gone and whatnot. But if you do have more of that critiquing type of feedback that you want to give, but you don't want to say in front of all your classmates because they're all talking about how I'm the best person ever, which, I mean, not going to say anything here, but I'm kind of a big deal, right? But if you don't want to say it in front of them and get kind of torn apart by the 190 people that don't agree with that, that's fine. Send me stuff on your own. You don't have to write endless comments on there in an attempt to get an A. 99% of you are going to get an A anyways. The point of this class is to learn, not to be stressed out about what kind of grade you're getting and all of that. Hi. So I think most of you have gotten through the 5-year plan assignment. You've given good feedback on it. I'm glad that it actually did something for you. My goal is that you can take portions of that assignment and use them towards your resume or use them towards different applications you might fill out in the future, or statements of purpose for grad school, or anything that you're going to use to kind of jumpstart your future career. Because my philosophy, and I could be wrong here, is that you guys are not in school right now because you want to stay in the same exact position, either in work or in life or in whatever they are in right now. You're going to school for some sort of purpose. So hopefully that is a little tiny bit of a springboard of purpose for you. There was like 30 something of you last time. I scared you away. There's 7 of you now. I wanted to talk to you guys about research. There's already a video up from the previous semester about research topics and what the assignment is and how you can get involved on campus and whatnot. But I'm going to go ahead and do this again since I have some of you guys actually here. I'm going to pull open the research topics assignment, which is the next thing that you are supposed to turn in, but it's not due for a while. You've still got like 3+ weeks to turn this in, so no big deal. It'll be there for a while, but let me pull open the actual document. So in case you haven't noticed yet, all of the assignments have a docx at the bottom that have some sort of written instructions on how to do the assignment, with 2 exceptions. 1 being the wandering map, which you did online, and 2 being the professional development assignment, which is just a summary. You don't have to really answer any one thing, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. So I'm grabbing, I'm opening, I'm perusing the research topic assignment. So the purpose for having you do this research topics assignment is that, especially if you are relatively early in your psych career right now, you're going to have courses where you are challenged with coming up with something that you're interested in researching, and you are going to have to then write in some way, shape, or form about this thing that you're supposed to be really interested in. And that's kind of who we are as academic psychologists. Is we're built to research things. So you kind of have to get into that as an assignment at some point. So if you look at the DocX, it's going to ask you for the same thing 3 times. So I want you to come up with 3 hypothetical studies that you could potentially run. It doesn't have to be within the field of psychology. It doesn't have to all be within the same field as each other. You could have 3 different experiments that talk about the same thing, but in a different way. It's really open to what you're interested in terms of how you're going to fill this out and give it back to me. So the purpose is for you to come up with these little hypothetical things that you could potentially go and actually do research on. So I want you to give your study a title, whether it's like personality in the workplace and how that affects absenteeism or some random thing like that. Give it some sort of succinct title that gives me an idea of what it is that you're actually looking at. You're going to give me a summary of background information. So skipping ahead a second, the last thing on this list of each of these 3 assignments that you're going to give me is links to articles. So there is a video right now that's up on the YouTube already that talks about how you can navigate through the FIU library in order to find articles. I'm also going to post a document for you guys. Look for it. It should be called Paper Guidelines 101, which will also go over how you can look for articles in the library. But you might want to do this prior to writing your summary. Come up with 3 different articles and link them. So you can either just copy the URL or you can, I don't know, however you want to show me that you've actually found them. You're going to put them in there and you can use these as part of that study summary part of the assignment. So when I asked for background information, I'm asking you to tell me why this particular topic is relevant for you to study it, basically. So if you were looking at personality and absenteeism, you might tell me about a few different ways that personality has been linked to things related to absenteeism, but maybe why it hasn't been studied in the way that you want to yet, or how it hasn't been studied in the way that you want to yet. So what is this unique thing that you're bringing to the table by proposing this research? You are going to give me the primary, independent, and dependent variables. So if you've been through any of the methods or research sequences so far, you know what these are. You've heard about them before. They should have been gone over pretty well in the intro to psych class. But if you're thinking about them and you want to find a way to remember what the difference between the 2 types of variables are, is independent relates to your input. So just put in and in together. Whatever you're putting in is manipulating onto the independent variable. So you're changing that in whatever way you're proposing in your research in order to get some sort of output, which is the dependent variable. It is dependent on whatever it is that you're going to do in that situation to get the kind of output that you want. So if we were looking at personality and absenteeism, the thing that we're trying to predict really is whether or not somebody's going to be absent from the workplace. That's what we really care about, because that is the bottom line of organizations. We want people to actually come to their job. So we want to look at how something is changing the level of absenteeism. We want it to be relatively low. So the dependent variable there is going to be absenteeism. It's what's going to fluctuate based on the independent variable of personality. So you could say that extroverts are less likely to be absent, or that neuroticism is highly related to absenteeism, and that would be your independent variable. You're looking at the difference of personality across people, which is not necessarily something you're manipulating. You don't have to manipulate an independent variable. It's just the thing that's going to change in levels to get the output, which is this level of absenteeism. I can speak. I swear to you, I can speak. So you're going to break those down and tell me what the 2 variables are. When I say proposed study design, which again, I'm reading this from the overview document, the overview research topics assignment. So you don't have to like furiously write this down. It's there. You're going to talk to me about would you do surveys, or would you have somebody in a lab? Like, how exactly would this study work if I was to give you full permission to go and run it the way you want to run it? Are you going to just put surveys together and send them through Sona? What is it that you're going to do? And then the importance of the study to the field of psychology or related field, just like a sentence or two of what important thing we would learn by you doing this research. So you're going to do that 3 times. You're going to come up with 3 titles, 3 topics, and you're going to submit all 3 of them, 9 different articles, unless they relate, and you find a way to be sneaky and the same articles can relate multiple times. But the purpose of this is really to give you 3 of these things that when you do go into those classes, so say you take the method sequence and they tell you, well, you can write your research, whatever paper it is now that they call it, you can write that based off of whatever it is that you want to. Well, you can go back to your topics assignment and you can pull your summary out and your articles and you can hit the ground running. That's kind of the point of this, not to give you something useless, but to give you something useful. So can it be 3 different topics? Absolutely. It can be whatever you want it to be. I've had people write the same field, like maybe they want to do some sort of eyewitness testimony research, but they want to look at 3 different things, so they write them into 3 different topics. Or people who just have a whole lot of interest in a lot of different areas and they just get excited by research. Can you pass some of that on to me, please, and to the rest of the class, because we'd like to know where the excitement is. I shouldn't be saying that. Research is very exciting, ladies and gentlemen. You should always want to do it 24/7. You should want to spend your life involved in it. So for the scope of that assignment, you're just going to fill those things out the same way you did with the 5-year plan. You're going to fill them out. You're going to save them into the docx, and you're just going to re-upload that back in, and then you're going to be done with it. You might never ever look at it again. You might find it really helpful, whatever it is that you're going to do with it after that. I'm not sure if we'll talk specifically about the professional development activity before you actually have the activity due. Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to dedicate a specific activity to it, but I've gotten some questions about it. So I just want to give you an overview. You will not find some list of questions for it. I don't think that there is a video for it, but there is an overview of the assignment in the syllabus. It's very straightforward. I want you to select some sort of professional development activity, and it can be from a wide range of things. So you can go, if you're on campus, you can go to career services or any of those student development type places on campus, and you can attend one of their little seminars like Resume Writing 101 or Interview Skills 101 or whatever 101, and go, and you're going to provide me some sort of proof that you attended. So you're going to like take a picture of the brochure, or hopefully not of the person while they're talking, but you're going to show me in some way that you were there. And then you're going to write a simple little summary of what the purpose of the seminar was, what you got from it, that sort of deal. It doesn't have to be more than a page. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. The idea is just to get you into some of these activities that are going to be good for you moving forward as either people going into your careers or people going into grad school and whatnot. So there's an app through FIU Career Services called Handshake. You can sign up for that, and you can set it to alert you to whatever it is that you want in terms of what you want to go to. Maybe you specifically want to do a resume thing and you want to find the next one open. Like, you can go search through that. They also have online webinar type things, kind of like I'm doing with you. And you can do this stuff and sign up, and it kind of puts you into an online system where somebody's teaching you. Sorry, I'm looking at the questions right now. Somebody's teaching you and a group of other people that are remotely attending the seminar. Also, if you have a friend that's at FIU and they want to like FaceTime you into it and you can somehow get your assignment out of that, like, be creative here. I'm not here to limit you on what you can and can't do to complete this. And then there's also the option that there's something in your community or in your particular organization, if you already, have a career somewhere that has really good development programs, where you can go and attend that thing for whatever it is and use that. It doesn't have to be through FIU. It doesn't have to be college related. You can go. Somebody did a seminar at like Wells Fargo last semester on something bank related. To be honest with you, I don't really remember what she did. But her name was Tyra, and it was bank related. So now I've got Tyra Bank stuck in my head. So it's stuck. It's stuck somehow. But you can go do pretty much anything. If you're concerned, all you have to do is write to me and say, hey, this is what I want to use. Is this good enough? Like, maybe you went to some sort of balloon sculpting class, and now you know how to make balloon swords. And even though that's really cool, and I would like you to make me one, it's probably not something that's going to count for this class. But I would like to reiterate that if you know how to make balloon swords, I would really like you to make me one. Do you get that? Okay. So Leadership Summit and SiteCon would both count towards that. Yeah, absolutely. If you go to anything career fair related or anything like that, where you're going and you're attending and you're getting some sort of information and it's something that you can use in a professional development way, then it totally counts. Now, I don't want you to do this for something that happened like a year ago. Like you saw me at SiteCon last October and you're going to use this for your assignment now retroactively. That's a no. Unless maybe you complete the assignment and you bribe me with a balloon sword to use one of these old things that you did. But I'm not putting that thought in your head. Just saying that it would probably work. So again, it doesn't need to be more than a page. You're just going to submit it. You're going to send it off to me. And then the wealth of knowledge and information that you got from doing it is what you're supposed to hang on to. It's one of those knowledge is power moments. So we covered that. Now, talking more about research in general is what I really wanted to spend the bulk of this webinar doing. But it helps if you're going to learn how to make a balloon sculpture. I think, you know what? Not only is balloon shaping, what do we even call that? Like, does it balloon animal making? Whatever it is that you do, it's a good trait to have, all right? You can calm crying babies. You can get a side job at a restaurant. You can woo a significant other with a balloon rose. There's so many options here, aside from bribing me with with a rubber sword that's going to pop as soon as I use it to do anything. There's so many. It's very versatile. You could probably make more with a degree in balloon animal making right now than you can with most bachelor's degrees. So think about that. When it comes to the research stuff, though, I wanted you guys to have a chance to ask me questions about what you're thinking in terms of research. What are you curious about? What do you want to know about getting involved in different research opportunities? Before I really just sat here and rambled on about it. But I don't know if between all 10 of you, if you have some amazing questions. Yes, career fair is fine. Especially if you got a job. That'd be a great story. So I can post it and be like, look, they did this for my class and they got a job out of it. But I highly doubt you're going to ask me questions about research. So I'm just going to go over it really quick for those of you who are boycotting watching the old video and want up-to-date research information. So research is really important for you guys as psych majors, especially if you want to go to grad school. Now, when you're looking into grad schools, the type of research and the amount of research and whatnot that are going to go onto your CV, which is your fancy way of saying your resume, your educational resume, is going to depend on what you're trying to go into. So if you're trying to go directly into like that master's of counseling type of field, then your research can be something that's a little bit more applied. It can be a little more varied, and maybe you just don't need as much of it. If you're going into med school, your research is going to need to be plentiful, and you're going to have to kind of validate why you picked psychology and not biology. You're going to have to tie the psychology into it through your research. You're going to have to find some way to get those bio experiences out of your psych degree. So your research is going to be tailored to kind of where the areas are in your resume, in your CV that are lacking, if that makes any sense. So if you did wanted to go into IO psychology, but maybe all of the experiences you've had so far have been like in retail, or you've just done volunteer experiences, or you've had like nothing to do with anything tying into human resources, you might want to use doing some sort of IO research as a way to supplement your background in that area. So use getting involved in research as something that is going to give you some sort of leverage towards what you want to do in the future. Because there are some people who think, well, I'm just going to get involved in 1,000 different labs and I'm going to accumulate all these hours of being in research, but I really want to go into marital counseling, and I just spent 2,000 hours of my undergrad career slicing monkey brains in the neurocog lab. The way that those relate to each other, not so good. You might have wasted some of your time. Like, your one experience can only take you so far when it's not related to what you want to go into. I'm interested in getting my PhD in psychology, and I read that finding a mentor supervisor in that program is the first step. How do you go about finding one? So are you talking about a PhD in clinical psychology, or a PhD in general psychology? Because when you're going into graduate coursework, the different kinds of programs are very different in the way that they're structured. So when you get into something like IO, or maybe even the cognitive side, anything that's a non-clinical, they tend to let you be a little bit more flexible when you get into the program. This is just talking about here at FIU, right? Every school works differently. Some of them you need to pair with a lab from the first day, no matter what the field is, and that's what you need to get into it. But when you're talking about FIU, the area that kind of mandates that you have some sort of mentor is clinical. And it's best to kind of develop that relationship prior to applying, but it's not necessary. You can apply and be a really stellar applicant and have a lot of great ideas and offer a lot of great things, and then kind of just start in the lab once you've already gotten into the program. But how you go about finding somebody is, let me see if I can find this. There is particular faculty positions, and this is an unfortunate thing that I have to tell people sometimes when they ask me for letters of recommendation, that I don't count, because certain adjunct faculty and even assistant professors who have PhDs don't count towards graduate level program stuff. So there is a list somewhere, FIU research approved faculty, maybe. There is a list somewhere, and I'm not going to waste a ton of time looking for it, but it'll tell you which professors have reached the kind of tenure status to be able to work with graduate students. Like, there will be a flat out list of everybody in the psych department, and there will be like little asterisks next to all the people that qualify, and those are the people that you want to target in terms of who you want to work with. Because maybe you go through that list and you see my name because I'm a faculty. I don't even know if I'm on that list. I have no idea, because I can't find it. But trust me, it exists because I've seen it before. But you might go, oh, I really want to work with Jen. That sounds amazing. We're going to learn how to make balloon animals. And then you find out that I have absolutely no sway in the graduate research world. And then you're kind of bummed out because you invested all of this stuff in getting me to like you by making me balloon swords. What you want to do is find those people that are capable of mentoring at the graduate level, which means they will be allowed to be on your master's committee or your thesis committee or your dissertation committee, those types of people. And then figuring out which ones you match with, for one, and then which ones of those people that you match with, okay, good. Which ones of those people do you match with have actual space in their life for you? So there will be some people on that list that are struggling in terms of they don't have a lot of graduate students in order to even do research. So that might be why you don't see them on a lab, or in a lab, I should say. And then there may be the kind of people that, like in the neurocog lab, that have hundreds of students like funneling in and out, and really the graduate students are what is the most hands-on on the research for them. So if you're looking for somebody to mentor you at a graduate level, taking on PhD students is not something that any faculty member does lightly, because they kind of become bound to each other for life. It's like you swear an oath. It's like a little blood oath. Your success is now bound to me, and vice versa. So they don't do it lightly. So find the people that, number one, you actually feel like you could have that kind of connection with. And then number two, actually have the time to give that back to you. But they, again, need to be from that list of people that can actually do research. That probably sounded more vague than anything I've ever said on a webinar, because I can't find the link. But I will find it to you, and I will send it to you and prove to you that it actually exists. PhD scares me because of the research portion. Julio, you should be scared. Research and research methods and all the stuff that ties into this is one of those things that, oh no, Julio, no, don't OMG me, Julio. No. It's one of the things that I won't sugarcoat for anybody, because what you see in methods is a very watered down version of what you will see at a doctoral level if you pursue something that requires research. It's just the way that it is. And it takes a really particular kind of person to make it through that program and to excel at those different tasks. Like me, I'm in year bajillion of finishing this because I suck at this. I do. I am not a phenomenal researcher. I am an amazing writer, and I can get the ideas down, but the methodological parts of research are not my strong suit. So it has been a struggle for me. There were people that started at the same time as me, and 4 years in, they were done. They had somehow mastered every little task, bam, and there were their papers, and they were done. They were gone. They could have gotten 2 degrees in the time it took me to get one. So if you do like research, this is great. Absolutely, go get a PhD. If you found yourself questioning whether or not you even want to be in psych anymore after getting through that method sequence, then you might want to start looking at, why do I want a PhD? What is the purpose of me getting this PhD? Could this be achieved by doing a master's degree? Because masters are usually way more applied. The research is a lot more practical. And when I say practical, I mean applied. I don't mean like master's degree research makes more sense than PhD research does. It tends to be more short-term sort of goals, as opposed to studies that could take you years and years to get done. Julio, please, don't do it. No, don't do it as in don't jump off the cliff. Please do continue with your psych degree. I want to do an internship. I know that it needs to be approved by faculty. Do you have any list of professions under the psychology umbrella? Which undergrad can do that? So the psych kind of equivalent to doing an internship is to finding a lab to be a part of, and especially if you can find some sort of paid lab position, which they do exist, where they'll ask you for a certain number of hours in a week, which all the labs are going to do anyways, but they'll actually pay you to do the research, as opposed to you just coming in and kind of gaining the experience. So the general, if we do this, FIU psychology research. So the website is psychology.fiu.edu /research/labs/index.html. Or you could just go to Google and Google FIU psychology research. And it comes up with all the different labs that have some sort of like tangible description behind them and working people that are actually in those labs now. There are plenty of labs that exist in FIU Psych or in the periphery of things that relate to FIU Psych that are not on this list. Like I just started my own research lab. Hi to those of you that like actually know what I'm talking about, in order to kind of complete the different elements of my dissertation, since it's going to be a very time-consuming process, because I self-selected into something really complicated. Nobody to blame but myself there. But there are plenty of us out there who kind of have our own little lab type thing where we mentor people and we have working cogs in the machine of doing research that aren't on this labs and facilities page. But if you did want to do some sort of internship, like a good thing to get involved in with FIU Psych, trying to find a link to one of them now, is anything in the Center for Children and Families. It's huge over there. There's a lot of people working in it. They have a lot of paid positions. They have some positions that are just research. They have some positions that you'll work after like a normal school day, and you'll go in and work with the different children and families for a variety of reasons, like autism, ADHD, like you name it, they do it over there. It's a very, very big, it's in all of those AHC health buildings over there. So that's a really good place to try and get involved, just because they have paid opportunities. It's constantly revolving, meaning if you were to go look at FIU jobs right now, there's plenty of things from the Center for Children and Families on there. And they also have those kind of shadowy, researchy type positions too. And they do cover a lot of different areas within the scope of children and families. So if you maybe don't have any interest in kids, but you still want to work with them, there's definitely stuff on the parent side as well. And that ties into almost every field of psych if you want to go and do it. Can you have a full-time job while getting a PhD? Let me be honest with you right here. You don't want to. So when you get in to a PhD program, and this is going to differ from public institutions to private institutions to societies versus PhDs, depending on what your actual doctoral degree is in. But I'd say on average, if you're doing a standard PhD program, you're going to get some sort of funding, usually through grants that the university receives to do research. So in turn for giving you that money, they're going to require a variety of things from you. So I was a McNair fellow, and I was lucky enough to have my first 4 years funded through a McNair fellowship, where the first 2 years I didn't have to work at all. I just had to go to school, which gives me no excuse for being this far behind. But and the second 2 years I worked. But here's the thing. So when you receive any type of funding from the university, any type of funding tied into your education, you have to sign a waiver saying that you're not going to work anywhere else at the same time. And they actually check up on you. They utilize the IRS and tax returns and different types of things to figure out if you're working somewhere else. And if they find out that you are and you've lied to them, they can then retract that money and make you pay it back to them through the IRS. Like, this is like real legal money stuff. So the only way you can really survive the first 4 years is through getting some sort of funding, because you have to think of tuition and insurance and just living expenses and all of this stuff. But at the same time, the stipends that they give you don't cover a lot. So yes, it'll cover your tuition. It'll cover like 80% of your health insurance, I believe is what FIU offers, but the standard FIU graduate stipend is only $18-something thousand a year. So you guys have been in Miami lately. Can't really survive here on $18,000 a year. You really can't. So you end up in the whole game of taking out loans and stuff like that. So you can choose to say, no, I don't want this funding. I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to work a full-time job. I'm going to pay my own tuition. I'm going to take care of everything on my own. But you have to take into mind that you're still going to be taking for at least 2 years coursework in psychology with a PhD. So that coursework is not built around a full-time work schedule. Our classes were like 9 to noon, 1 to 4, like those right in the middle of day times where you could not be at work for a normal job and be in class at the same time. And you're not allowed to miss class at this level. It's not where you can just phone this in and work your full-time job and just do your homework and you're good. You have to actually be there. You have to actually interact with people. So there was one person that I know of in our department who worked full-time and kind of did that. And they were flying back and forth between here and Atlanta, like every weekend. We're extremely busy. And, you know, it was a very hectic sort of thing. They already had a career established. So establishing a new career in the middle of the whole PhD thing, not so easy. Like, I teach 7 classes right now. That's kind of a lot. It's kind of more than most anybody ever teaches. And that's my way of making some sort of meager living while still being a PhD student. But once you get to the point where I'm at, you're just on the research portion. They call it all but dissertation. And you don't have to go into classes anymore. So you actually have free time and you can schedule things around it. So you can start working the full-time job that you want. Can I do something like IO? Okay. Ina? I'm going to assume that your name is pronounced Ina. Write to me. We'll have a little conversation about this. Eve, do you have any advice for narrowing down your research interests? Oh, man. I've been criticized many times for having very lofty interests that are just either impractical or just would take too much time to do them. And that's been part of my problem, is the things that I find the most interesting are the stuff that doesn't have a whole lot of research out there about it. Because my mind works in this way where it sees problems, it doesn't see solutions, and it just goes into overdrive going, oh, I want to look at this and this and this and this and this and this. It leaves you with really, really big experiments that have very little with which to help you build them. So when you're narrowing down your interests, you do want to have a healthy amount of previous things that have been done in that area, just to give you some sort of roadmap to what you're going to do in the future so that you're not reinventing the wheel. Research works, I mean, I'm not going to say best, but it works well on the individual doing it if it's like built upon a bunch of other little things and you're not taking these major leaps at a time. Because when you're starting to do really new things that don't have a lot of scientific proof or founding or whatever yet, that's when you start to get rejected from journals and people stop taking you seriously. Like, you need to do little bits at a time. So if your goal is that you did want to look at personality and absenteeism, I don't know. That's what my mind is set on tonight. We're looking at personality and absenteeism. Like, maybe your desire is you want to figure out how every aspect of personality, each one of them interweaves into why people are absent from work. And you have this lofty idea and this great sort of plan that you're going to weave all of them in. And it's through the interaction of all these things that this stuff happens. The best thing for you to do is pinpoint a couple of those things to pull apart and look at individually instead of trying to tackle such a big thing at once. So if you have an area that you're interested in, try to narrow it down to something that's like really, really specific. And even if it took you a few different studies to do it, or maybe you're not answering the entire question at the same time, at least you've bit off something that you can actually chew, as opposed to having this massive project that you then have all these parts that, trust me, as somebody who's notorious for doing gigantic studies that are really novel, which is great. We make progress in the field of science through doing novel things, right? Not the easiest on the person doing it. So especially if you're relatively new to research, I would pick off a small thing. And even if it seems insignificant or it seems like stuff's been done on it before, find these tiny little ways to make it newer and newer and newer and more your own until you've built yourself a solid foundation to work on. I'm not sure if you guys really want to know anything else about this. I am here. You know what? I'm going to post it down here. Maybe this will pop up when people watch the video, but that is the link to the department website with all of the labs and stuff. So if you wanted to go into the child anxiety and phobia program, which has sent out emails recently about recruiting undergraduate researchers, you would click on the link. It would tell you exactly where they are, AHC 1, room 140. It'll give you their number. It should tell you who in general is in the department and what the kind of research is that they're doing there right now. And it should give you some way of, okay, this is who you contact if you want to get involved in this sort of thing. And like I said, there's going to be plenty of people that aren't on this website that you can go out and try to individually find. When I was in undergrad, my first research experience was through just simply asking one of my professors if they had any sort of research opportunities. And he said yes. And it didn't end up being something that he was able to carry on to like the full end of doing an actual study on it. We actually went to the Metro Zoo and we were going to go observe gorillas. Didn't end up working out because there weren't enough of us to go observe the gorillas. Would have been cool. But through that, I got more opportunities, and kind of once you get in, you start to network with people and you start finding more connections. So ask your professors, hey, are you doing any interesting research? Is there any way that I can help you with your super interesting research? I really want to be a part of your super, super interesting research. And you find a nice, polite way to do that and express your interest. And usually, if they don't have something themselves, they'll know of a colleague that does. And you'll start into that little inner circle of people. Do most people in PhD programs have to take out loans? Can you teach at the university to help cover living expenses? So if you get those stipends that I was talking about for your first 4 or 5 years that pay for tuition and that other kinds of stuff, you are only allowed 20 hours in your work week. So the first part of your graduate career, those 20 hours are either going to be as a teaching assistant to a professor, a research assistant to a professor or lab, or as a general assistant where you're like working in the psych department for 20 hours, answering phones, helping with advising, that sort of stuff. Once you get to the point of finishing your master's portion, meaning you finish your coursework, you start to do your comprehensive exams, and this counts even if you're not in a PhD program and you're just doing a master's degree. Once you have a master's degree, you've reached the technical point where you can start teaching at a college level. So even if you just go and do a master's degree, you can go apply to Miami-Dade, like a terminal. That's all you want to do. You want to go get your master's degree in counseling, but you also kind of want to teach. You can go apply to Miami-Dade or to a variety of other different colleges in the area, and you can legally teach college courses with a master's degree. You don't need any more than that. The different types of fields and the different types of actual universities will require more than that. Like right now, because I'm under the umbrella of being a graduate student here, my teaching, my ability to teach came from being a graduate teacher, and it kind of just flowed naturally into being an adjunct professor. Like they just kind of changed the name of it over. But if I hadn't gone to school here and they were just hiring off of the street, I would not fare that well with a master's degree. They are only going to hire professors for any sort of longevity that have PhDs. a certain percentage of the PhDs at any given, or a certain percentage of the professors at any given college need to be a portion of PhD. I don't know if that made any sense to you. So yes, absolutely. Graduate school equals loans. Like whether you're doing master's or PhD, you don't get grants anymore. There's no free money. There's hardly any scholarships. And the assistantships come with a lot of red lines and telling you what you can and can't do with your life. So it's very hard when you're, especially in the first couple of years, first 3 or 4 years of grad school, or even just in your master's program, to really develop yourself professionally. You're kind of bound to just being around the university a lot and trying to find as many unpaid opportunities as you can to get into the field, because when you're using any sort of university dime to count towards your program, you're not doing anything else. You cannot do anything else. So my friends, especially if you want to be in PhD programs, you're either going to be living at home, which I am a massive proponent of staying at home as long as you can to get on your feet. Don't be too proud and think, I am a certain age, I need to get out of the house, or I got my undergrad degree, so now I need to get out of the house, or whatever, so I need to get out of the house and I need to leave my parents, because obviously that's the right grown-up thing to do. If you can have that conversation with your parents and you can stay at home and get yourself through this graduate program, that's going to be your best option. The only way you're going to survive it without loans is if you have somebody that you're living with, and if probably that person you're living with is a family member, because honestly, being in a relationship and sharing expenses, like that's still not going to work in Miami unless you've managed to find a sugar mama or sugar daddy. In that case, let me know how you figured that out, because just like hook it up, because otherwise you're screwed. No, I'm sorry. I should never say those words on a video like that. You are not. You will find your way and you will navigate through, but hopefully you'll do it with a little more knowledge than maybe some of us who started and are now just drowning. We're just drowning. We're like, what's another student loan? Really? What is one more? Let's just throw it in there. You know what? I'm already going to be paying this off until I'm approximately 142 years old. Just throw another one right on top of it. That's kind of what our mentality becomes. Yeah. And then we're stuck here. I really hope that nobody from the department actually watches these things, and it's just you guys. It's just you guys to listen to me talking about my deep aspirations for somebody come pay off my debt. I'll do anything. Yeah, unless you guys have any other like questions. It's been 40 something minutes. People have come in and out. I watched the little number just sit there and do this. So I don't want to bore anybody to death who's coming in and watching this video not at the time I was actually doing it live. I've been told that they can be a little confusing if you're watching them and you weren't actually watching them when they were on. Nah. Make time on Sundays for me, and that wouldn't happen. But if you have any questions, let me know. And as always, you can always write to me. There are a couple of people that have written to me like really nice, positive, happy messages, but weren't some sort of like urgent thing. And I've been sitting there on them, waiting to write some sort of nice, happy, sentimental message back to you. So don't think that I've forgotten you. If it is urgent, make sure that I see it. I think I do a pretty good job at seeing it. But if you have any like very, very specific questions about this, or about IO, or about your life, or about how to make balloon swords, I don't know if I can provide you a whole lot of information there, but we can try. We can surely try. You just send me an email or a canvas message or a smoke signal, and we'll get it done. That's my goal. We're going to get it done. And then you'll have spring break before you know it, and then the semester will be over, and then you'll be having grandchildren. It's just like, it's just going to happen. Have a great week, guys. You survived Valentine's Day. You can do anything.